with less than 2 weeks until WrestleMania. It feels like anything but WrestleMania season as WWE takes logic and throws it completely out the window. Let's get everything started with your Monday Night Raw review right now.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
All right, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE Podcast. We are 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. And like I said at the open of the show, I don't know about you, but it feels like anything but WrestleMania right now. Yes, even compared to last year. Last year, while the pandemic hit, no fault of WWE, and they had to go to the eerily quiet Performance Center, this just, I don't know if it's because of the card or the build or the lack of logic or silliness or 30 minutes spent on a segment that had nothing to do with a WrestleMania match that most people give a damn about. Add to that the breaking up of the Hurt Business, and there's really only one thing to ask WWE, and that is, what the f***? Hey, how about that? I bet you didn't know I had my own sound effects and self-censoring. That's really the only way that I could get out my expression, because I said that expression to myself many a time throughout Monday Night Raw. And look, it wasn't all bad. I'm not going to sit here and complain about the entire show. There were some good elements. There were some elements that progressed the story towards WrestleMania. But man, oh man, 2 weeks out and you drop this turd on fans? I'm not following. But I've kind of become accustomed to WWE just dropping total turds on the fans in build-ups and go-home shows to pay-per-views. I think that necessity to have an all-out great hype-up show went away when the network came about, because they didn't have to worry so much about buy rates. And it just became about the network, that it's not just about the pay-per-views. You can get a ton of other original content. So I think the network, in part, played a part in the death of great, hot, gotta see, must watch the pay-per-view hype when we get go-home shows. So I don't expect a very hot show next week. And that's sad to say, given that it's WrestleMania, the biggest show of the entire year if you're a wrestling fan, that we're going to be, and I don't expect to have a very hot show. I don't. And that's sad. I think it's more telling of WWE than it is of, I think, as fans, our perception of how we look at the product now. I think that we've just been conditioned to have these ho-hum shows as we get close to the pay-per-views, and even WrestleMania is not immune to this. So, like I said, I do have some good stuff to go through. I don't want to preface this show, even though it started out a bit rough around the edges, to make you think it's going to be an all-out, cussing and all that kind of stuff. And that's not what this show's about. And when I do feel the need, I bleep myself out, and as I did right then, there, and there a couple of minutes ago. So, welcome to the WWE Podcast. This is the home of your unofficial WWE Podcast. And I'd like you guys, if you're new, to join us throughout WrestleMania season and beyond. It's a great time to get yourself subscribed, get yourself familiar with all of our content, all of our hosts and co-hosts that we have. And we have a great team of them that cover everything AEW, NXT, nostalgia, and SmackDown, and highs and lows, and yours truly covering about 4 of those shows every week. We drop 9 usually per week. So certainly it's a great time to get yourself plugged in and see what else we have to offer. I know there's a lot of competition out there in the wrestling podcast genre, but I think we offer something different in we pump out a lot more shows than a lot of other podcasts do. We have female voices, which I think is a big plus on our end, because there's not a whole lot of wrestling fans that are women that actually have their own shows, so we bring them here. And it's not just because they're women. Obviously, it helps with a female voice, but they're really, really smart and well-spoken. on the product and have a passion for it. And I think we're very genuine here. I tell all of my hosts, look, we don't just say something because we feel like we need to. Say whatever the hell you want in PG and keep it real. And I think that is the advantage we carry over a lot of other shows. So anyway, how about that for my sales pitch for this show? But if you want to support us, a really easy way is give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you want to just get rid of all those pesky ads, just go to patreon.com and search for the WWE podcast. And you get all of our shows ad-free for $1. Every single one. And I'd like to give a shout-out to our latest patron who has taken advantage of that, Scott McCabe, who has joined us. Big shout-out to you, my friend. Thank you for supporting the show and enjoy your ad-free experience. No more interruptions, no more skipping forward, none of those frustrations. All of those go away when you head on over to Patreon. Download the app. You don't have to do the web browser thing. I don't think anybody does web browsing anymore on their actual PC for podcast listening. For the most part, I think majority are mobile listeners. So download Patreon, search for the WWE podcast, and get yourself on board. All right, enough of that. Let's get into Monday Night Raw, and let's talk about, what do I want to start out with? I'll start out with what WWE opened with, and that is the dissolution of the Hurt Business. I think I shouldn't be surprised anymore. And yes, this is going to be generally a negative outlook on what WWE did here, but I will be putting a positive spin on this to look ahead to why they may have done this and why perhaps this could be a good thing for Bobby Lashley. So I'll do that on the back end of it. But first, let me say this. When you look at the history of WWE keeping groups together over the last few years, over the last 5 to 10 years, their track record is not very good. I'm talking not just bringing people together to form a group, but having a long-term run with that group, whatever it may be. I mean, look behind in the wake, in the graveyard of factions that were and then never were. Seth Rollins turning heel, bringing AOP on board and Murphy on board. AOP gets injured, then they go away, then they got dissolved. Then he brings Murphy back. Murphy doesn't want to be there. Then he does. Then he doesn't. Then he does. Then he doesn't. Then he does again. So he's on again. I'm sure he'll go off again. And then we have, and this is just off the top of my head, in the last year, of course, Retribution is a complete joke. I'm going to leave them off my list because I don't consider them a real group. They don't even really deserve the breath out of my mouth right now. But who else? We got King Corbin and his minions that were there for like a week. We did have Apollo Crews and his camo dudes. I don't even know how else to frame them. But not that they played a big role, but we got teased with a group there. They can't even keep tag teams together without dissolving them for really no reason. You know what I'm going to say? Iconics. There was zero reason to break them up. None at all. And yet we get a big breakup from them. We have, most recently now, the Hurt Business, a group that overperformed and over-delivered on every level, every metric that you could have thought of when this group was designed. When this group was designed, you thought to yourself, and don't lie to yourself, guys. I want you to be honest with yourself. When this group was formed, we were all thinking the same thing. Mid-card, kind of mid-upper card group, with the muscle, the brains, the mouth, and some youth. That's what that group contained. It contained a lot of good ingredients, but you figure to yourself that it's probably not going to get over because Vince isn't going to give them a chance. And they're billed as a heel group. Again, why they were billed as a heel group makes no sense at all because they didn't do anything underhanded. They actually defended Raw when no one else would against Retribution. If you remember that, I didn't forget. I think that in storyline, we had MVP actually charge Adam Pearce with some kind of, some kind of ransom or some kind of fee, if you will, to attack Retribution and get them off Raw. And so they were actually standing up for the rest of the men and women in the locker room. They really did nothing heelish in my mind. And they overachieved. Fans caught on. I think they were feeling the group. It was something I think that was had long-term sustainability power, and they were just starting to get going. And then you started to see the dissension between Shelton and Cedric Alexander, which that's gone now, but you started to see that, and you're like, no, they can't, right? And then they become tag team champions. Bobby Lash becomes WWE champion. And then we have the New Day beat Hurt Business, Shelton and Cedric, for the Raw tag team titles. And since then, Bobby Lashley then gets frustrated with them because they showed up during his match with Sheamus last week when he didn't ask them to, just to help him. Oh, yeah. And then this week, things come full circle in frustration as we have the Hurt Business break up here and Bobby Lashley attack them. Bobby Lashley then went on to face Shelton Benjamin later that night. Shelton claims that he wouldn't be WWE champion Bobby without them. I disagree with that. I mean, they had nothing to do with The Miz at Elimination Chamber. They had nothing to do with the cash-in business. That was all Bobby Lashley and MVP. They had nothing to do with Bobby Lashley beating The Miz a week later on Monday Night Raw. There was nothing there. There was no ground to stand on, but it's just the prototypical thing you say is, when you break up from a group is, well, they wouldn't be where they are without me. Look what I did for them, which is, I get it. But, okay, so this group breaks up. Bobby Lashley dominates. And where do we go from here? Right? Again, from the negative side, I'll get to the positive in a minute. The negative of this is like, what the hell are we doing? This doesn't happen often. Groups don't usually overachieve what they're designed to be. Usually. It can happen. But when it does, WWE has two choices. They can keep this group where they always saw them and follow the road that they had planned, regardless of how successful they were, or try to ride the hot hand and see where it takes you. Well, WWE has made their choice, and they have chosen the former, to break up a group that had, I think, a lot of momentum before the silly dissension started. They could have gone on for a year, 2 years. I don't see or understand, will never understand for the life of me why WWE cannot keep a group together. Oh, and here's another example. Andrade, Austin Aries, Angel Garza, and Zelina Vega. Yeah, that group never really even got going either. That had a lot of potential with Zelina as the mouthpiece. So that was very frustrating. So the last year and a half, 2 years have not been good to really anybody looking for a strong, dominant faction. And I don't want to hear about the New Day. The New Day they're probably the only group that has stood the test of time, but not because the fans want it to, but because WWE wants them to. So outside of New Day, I don't think that there's a whole lot of factions, 3 or more, that have stood the test of time. But that's the negative, is like, what are we doing here? What is WWE doing with this? Why are they breaking them up? And your thought is, oh, well, they got to have something good here. They got to have a bigger picture in mind. And if you're an optimist, you're thinking, well, perhaps the short-term loss is worth the long-term gain. So if you're that's if you're an optimist. Although I don't think, looking on Twitter, many of you are of that mindset. That said, here's the positive, if you're looking for one. One is just what I said, the long-term gain. You would think that a group like this that overachieved, and I don't think got nearly the amount of juice you could have squeezed out of it that they did in their short run at all. Your hope is that they have a long-term vision, that the sacrifice now, the sacrifice made now is worth the prize coming, right? So that's your immediate thought if you're an optimist. Another positive, kind of a 1B, is, well, what is that long-term silver lining? What is that long-term goal? What is worth breaking up the Hurt Business? And the answer, if you're an optimist, is Bobby Lashley's career. It's Bobby Lashley center, at the center of this, I should say. Bobby Lashley as a long-term main eventer. And, more importantly, perhaps they view him as a babyface going forward. Why would they view him as a babyface going forward? Well, if you're a heel, you would need backup. If you're a babyface, you don't. So perhaps they are laying the groundwork for a Bobby Lashley big babyface turn and maybe a Drew McIntyre heel turn. Perhaps at WrestleMania there's a double switch. Because while this match it's a big one on paper, some would say you need to add a little bit of a spice to it. You need to add something to this. And that doesn't mean another person to the match, God forbid. It means some kind of twist, not just a clean victory, but something maybe post-match. And perhaps, if you want to see Bobby Lashley on a monster run, maybe as a babyface with MVP, which I would argue they've been all along, is you have Bobby Lashley shed his backup. You have Bobby Lashley retain the championship against Drew McIntyre. We have Drew McIntyre post-match pretend to go for the handshake and the whole respect and good sport type of reaction to Bobby is, you beat me, you're the better man tonight. And then immediately, do the Glasgow kiss and a Claymore, and you get this just nasty look that we've never seen on Drew McIntyre's face, where he's a sore loser. And he could scream the next night that I put everything into this and you fans didn't care. You were, I heard some of you booing me. I mean, you could easily turn Drew heel. He's been heel before. He was with, if you forget, he was with Shane McMahon as his heavy. Oh, we'll get to that too. Shane and Braun Strowman. That's going to be a fun combo. So that's, if you want to look at a possible big bright side here, it's Bobby Lashley drops the group. It's about Bobby now. He doesn't have to share the spotlight with anybody but himself and MVP. And it's potentially a big babyface turn. Or maybe continue as a quote heel with MVP. MVP could do both. With Bobby Lashley. I mean, it's all about Mr. Lashley and making him a massive star going forward as he just breaks off and does his own thing. And you know what? Not for nothing, you do have Cedric and Shelton, who are also active in the tag division. And every tag division, men and women's, need help in depth. So that's not a terrible thing where they're on their own story arcs anyway. Even though they're in the same group, they aren't working towards a common goal. Why not put these individuals on separate paths? So that's your silver lining. Do I think WWE is going to follow through or make good on this sacrifice? History would say no. I don't have a whole lot of confidence that WWE is actually going to make us all go, oh, okay, that's why they broke up the Hurt Business. That sucked at the time, but now I see what they're doing. How many times have we hoped for that reaction? And how many times have we actually had that reaction? I'd like to survey the audience on that. So, I'm still looking forward to the match at, not Fastlane, good Lord, at WrestleMania. I think it's going to be a great back and forth, a lot of kickouts and finishers as expected, very heavy hitting, very power move centric. So we'll have that full WrestleMania preview and prediction show, of course, next Friday night of all times. I almost said Saturday. Friday night, maybe even earlier. Maybe I'll do a Thursday. We'll see. I mean, next week's going to be a total disaster, and I mean that in a great way. A beautiful disaster next week. Very low on sleep. If you're a podcaster or a wrestling journalist or you have a wrestling website, it's going to be a tough, sleep-deprived week next week. But this is when you have most listens and most views. So you got to kind of put boots to asses, as The Rock once said. So I'll give you guys the WrestleMania schedule next week. I'm still working out some details and some fun things going on. So anyway, as I just opened with like 15 minutes of the Hurt Business, but it's worth discussing, I think. I think it's really worth discussing because it's a big deal to break up a group like that. All right. What else happened here? I'm going to go to something positive. Let's see. How about Randy Orton cutting a promo backstage? He states that he should have known that lighting the Fiend on fire wouldn't end him because he's not a normal man. He's an abomination. Basically, that's what he said, and he said that the Fiend and him are cut from the same cloth, referring to they're both twisted and sadistic. That's pretty much what he said. He knows what he needs to do. He said he knows what level of hell he needs to travel down to destroy the Fiend. So we'll see what that means. And the Alexa Bliss on Alexa's Playground responded later saying, I mean, this is like, I don't even know what to say about this. Like, what? I'm fine with Alexa's promo. I love Alexa Bliss. I like that they've actually added contacts to her eyes and put more dark shadow around her eyes. That makes her, I think maybe that was the missing link for me when I saw her. She kind of just felt like she was just overly done in makeup rather than actually possessed. So that really helps. So, kudos to whoever thought of that little thing. But Alexa Bliss saying that the Legend Killer would die at WrestleMania. That was her clue, her hint to all the Fireflies and to Randy Orton about what's coming at WrestleMania. Now, on the surface, you're thinking, die? Like the Fiend is actually going to kill him is her threat? But we can't, I don't think that WWE is that stupid, for lack of a better term. I don't think that they meant literally in that promo that the Fiend was threatening Randy Orton's life. She said the Legend Killer would die at WrestleMania. The Legend Killer. Now, the Legend Killer will die. Does that mean that the Fiend is going to somehow extract the Legend Killer personality from Randy? We didn't still get a stipulation, by the way. I think that they don't know what they want yet. We still didn't get a stipulation for that match. There's got to be one. There has got to be one, or maybe they don't. If they don't, it's absurd. But notice how she didn't say that he will kill you or Randy Orton will die. She said the Legend Killer. So I'm asking you guys to do some homework. What could she mean by the Legend Killer will die at WrestleMania? Outside, okay, we don't want it outside of the obvious potential that she actually meant that the Fiend will put his life in jeopardy. If that's the case, though, if it's that shallow, you never mention death on wrestling. It's just one of those things you don't do because you can't ever follow through with it. I understand that is actually the next step if this was logical from, hey, Randy lit me on fire and tried to kill me. But you don't say that in retaliation because people know you're not going to follow through. It's just not going to happen. So I have no doubt that, in kind of an early spoiler, I don't think anyone doubts this, that the Fiend is probably going to beat Randy Orton. And Randy Orton will go through some kind of metamorphosis. I don't know. But this is the last time that they're going to meet. So, this has been going on forever. Okay. So that's with my thoughts on Randy Orton and the whole backstage promo and Alexa Bliss there. Xavier Woods defeats AJ Styles via disqualification after interference by Omos. Before the match, the New Day beat Styles and Omos at a variety of party games. After the match, Omos took out both Woods and Kofi. This was to establish the dominance of Omos. Do I think that they're still going to win at WrestleMania? I hope. Anybody but New Day is champion at this point. Anyone. Bueller. Okay, there's a reference to a movie. Some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But, all right. This is it feels like it's so secondhand, doesn't it? This whole program. And it could have felt like so much more with AJ and Omos. Okay, let's see. Naomi defeats Shayna Baszler via pin with a roll-up, because what would a WWE show in general be without a roll-up? So there you go. A lot of distractions, including Lana, Dana Brooke, Mandy Rose, and Nia Jax, led to that finish. So Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax continue to crack at the seams and are about to just implode. And that's fine. It's time for both to go their separate ways. Specifically, Shayna Baszler, who teased facing Rhea Ripley. And I think that'll happen after WrestleMania. So, speaking of that, though, Rhea Ripley and Asuka had their signing for their contract at WrestleMania. And it's interesting how some matches require public contract signings. Some don't. Some just require a pointing at the sign, and that's like a legally binding a contract, I guess. Where sometimes that's okay and they can have a match, or you have to actually sign like a wet signature on paper and have it a public display. It's just, there's no consistency there. I'm not ranting about it. It's just a pro wrestling thing. But Ripley ended up, and this is, I don't know how I feel about this. I want to rant, but I also am excited about Rhea Ripley. I think a lot of fans are excited about Rhea Ripley. And furthermore, by extension, even more excited that the Raw Women's Championship is actually going to feel like a championship again. It's actually going to feel, effing relevant. I think that is also extremely exciting. So, now Asuka goes and she goes on her rants, and she speaks about 85% in Japanese, and the rest were just kind of waiting for the English words to pop up so we can catch the gist of what she's saying. And she says that your overconfidence hasn't been earned. Well, first of all, you don't earn overconfidence. You just have it, right? Respect is something you earn. Confidence is something you can have even if you shouldn't have it. But it's not something you earn. Okay? It's not an asset that you earn. You can just have it. So, I mean, I don't know. Just picking apart things. But we have Asuka, of course, saying that she's not ready for Asuka because I guess nobody is. And then we have afterwards, Rhea Ripley flips the table on Asuka, flips the table kind of on her face. Asuka goes down. Adam Pearce is in the ring. And that's when we get the whole Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler coming out, and Shayna teasing a match with Rhea Ripley, which I think will happen and should happen post-Mania. God, do we need a refresh in the women's division on Raw. So bad. I expect a really good match, by the way, between Rhea Ripley and Asuka. I'm excited for that match. That could be the women's match of the night. I know that's not saying a ton, considering the women don't get a ton of representation in terms of number of matches compared to the men, but I think they could easily outperform Sasha and Bianca Belair. I truly believe that. And that's not easy to say, because I also think Sasha and Bianca are going to be very good as well. I mean, we got some great wrestling matches coming up at Mania. And I'm talking physical, great reversals. It's like a young, refreshed women's pool here that are on the card. I'm excited. Okay, but I had no problem with this, and Nia comes out and she does her nasally little promos, and then we have Shayna Baszler, and she's threatening she's threatening Rhea Ripley. And what's weird about this whole thing is Asuka is down, right? Like, she was about to get up, and then she just stays down for the duration of the promo. A small thing, but do we really? I don't know. Nobody came out to help Asuka. She just had her tooth fixed, and she got hit in the face again. Adam Pearce is standing there like a lost soul, not knowing what to do. And Rhea's just standing there. And by the way, we have a challenge from Shayna Baszler to both Asuka and Rhea Ripley for next week's Raw. Those two face Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler in a tag team match next week. And I mean, I'm fine with that. On paper, it certainly sounds good. But did Asuka consent to this? I mean, you were just attacked by Rhea Ripley. I guess that's the point, right? So we get to see the age-old, and by the way, we just saw this on SmackDown, we get to see the age-old enemies have to tag together. How are they going to coexist? Is there tension? Yep, there's going to be tension. Is it going to explode? The answer is yes. Okay, let's stop fooling ourselves. It was just so weird, right? Like, some matches can just happen. Other ones, Adam Pearce has to be involved in. Some you just point to the WrestleMania sign. Some have to publicly be signed. There's no consistency. And I know that, again, it's pro wrestling world. We understand that matches can happen in a variety of ways. They don't all have to be done the same way. But if it's a sports simulation, man, can we just get a little more consistency? A little bit? Just, I don't know, something? Okay, but Asuka just, plays dead and lays there. Yeah, it was weird. Okay, let's get on to something I'm really scared about talking about. Actually, no. I'm not scared about this. This is probably one of the last good things that happened on Raw. And that's Sheamus defeating Riddle via pinfall after a jumping knee. It wasn't the bro kick. It was a jumping knee to the face. And first of all, let me just say, hallelujah, that a knee to the face actually ends a match, even if it's not his finish. Why does a match, by the way, every match in wrestling always has to, usually, if you're going to pin somebody or submit somebody, have to be with their, quote, established move, their established finisher or submission. I'm not saying that it shouldn't majoritively, is that a word? I just made it. How about we change it to every match doesn't have to end with their established finish or submission. If it does most of the time, that's fine, because that's their submission, that's their finish. I get it. But to add a little bit of unpredictability to a match, I want to feel that a match could end at any time. Not just, okay, it's the beginning of the match. Okay, they're starting to get some power moves in. It's the middle of the match. Okay, here comes some false finishes. Oh, somebody kicked out of one person's finish. The other person's going to kick out of the other person's finish. And then we get to the real finish. Right? Am I right? Is that generally how things go? Somebody say I'm wrong. Please. I'm not being a jerk about it. But that is the formula of WWE. Sometimes there's some chain wrestling. Most of the time it just starts out with a punching, kicking, and then they get into, reversals, power moves, back and forth. And then you can tell when they're getting towards the finish of the match. Well, what if once in a while you can end a match with something that actually should end a match in reality? A knee to the effing face. So congrats to whoever booked this match. It made you feel that, whoa, a knee to the face ended a match? Why isn't the bro kick? And by the way, not for nothing, if this was, if there was any sense and semblance of reality left in pro wrestling, whatever that is, if there is anything left. I mean, the curtain's been pulled back so far that, there's not even a curtain anymore. But should Sheamus really be pounding his chest and screaming, brogue, and then, fella? I don't even know what fella means. I know it means guy, dude, man. But if I'm going to be trying to hit my opponent with my finishing maneuver, would I announce it to them? Would I be standing there in the corner of the ring? Their hearing is still fine. I know that. By the way, hearing is like the last thing to go before you die. Random fact. Hearing is the last sense to go. So, with that fact, even if you are dazed and confused and you're out of breath, you still can hear. And even Stone Cold Steve Austin said that when he was in the middle of a match, he said his hearing's not great, but when he's in that ring, he can hear a guy, fart up in the nosebleeds. That's how sharp he said his hearing became. So, why would I announce my finish? I've never been a fan of that. And you could even say Shawn Michaels is guilty of this, pounding the mat with his foot. Now, it's one of the most iconic setups to a finish of all time. It certainly is. The tuning up the band is one of the most iconic moments or iconic setups to a finish of all time. And it's great. But you could say that is also kind of letting your opponent in on, hey, I'm about to hit you with a finish. Same with who else does it? Even Drew McIntyre with his countdown of 3, 2, 1. I mean, if you can hear the countdown, I would just roll out of the ring. Sheamus just says, brogue, fella. I would say, okay, thanks, man. Thanks for giving me some inside info there. I'm going to just head outside the ring because I know you're about to hit me with your finish. I don't know. So now that I'm trying to, completely ruin some moves for you, I don't mean to, but these are the things that take me out of the moment. That said, back to this match with Riddle. I mean, again, as much as I despise Riddle as a personality, as a character, especially as a babyface, this doofy, goofy, I should say. Doofy. Isn't that like a movie character from, what is it? Hold on, I'll get to it. Like Scary Movie or something? Those Scary Movie series. God, I love those. But goofy. He's just a goof that comes across as just spacey and unlikable and just not with it. And he's like the annoying kid at school that he's not really a threat. Like, he's not a bully at all, but he's kind of the guy that you just were like, oh, I don't want to get in a conversation with him. He's so weird, right? We all have that person, guy or gal. There's always that one person, even at work, maybe in your professional careers. There's always that one person that just goes on about random crap you don't give a damn about, and they just, they're in 5 different directions. Is that supposed to be endearing to us? I don't understand Matt Riddle as a personality, as far as how we're supposed to like him or relate to him. I don't. And if you do, and I have some people call in last week that said they did, and that's cool, I guess. Whatever. I can't stand him. I hope that he gets his face kicked in every time that I see him. I do want somebody to just beat his face in. That's not an attribute for a babyface. If he's a heel, boy, oh boy, what money that could be. So, I mean, Matt Riddle is bothering, who the hell is he bothering? The host, one of the co-hosts of WrestleMania, Titus World Slide, Titus O'Neil, bothering him with some weird questions and this dude's now riding around on a scooter, even comes out with a scooter. Birds fly around. Now when he does his kick off the sandals, whatever the hell he's wearing, I mean, this is not, I don't know. I don't know who's putting together his character. I want to talk to them face to face. I mean, I just want to have a conversation and just say, like, what is so likable about this guy? I hope he gets booed. I mean, inside the ring, the guy is awesome. And the match he had with Sheamus was exactly what you thought. Hard hitting, rough, tough. Matt Riddle is a legitimate badass in the ring. So that's where I give him his props. I mean, but that's where the props stop. And that's only half the story. It's only half the story if you're a pro wrestler. So anyway, let's move on here. I want to continue on, and let's see. Oh, well, by the way, for the winner of that match, we did have Sheamus obviously beat Riddle with that knee to the face. But after that, Riddle attacked him and dumped him over the top rope. Tells me that's setting up for a match between those two at WrestleMania. Oh, by the way, he's the United States champion. Yeah, forget that, right? Another championship being buried for no reason, where it's just never discussed. He wears it like I don't know. Just he's just such a frat boy in a man's body, isn't he? I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. Okay. Let's see. Drew McIntyre defeats, as he punks out really the entire locker room. I mean, he punks out everybody saying, do it. If I was here, I would do it. And he goes into the locker room and people are just hanging around. And, one or two people, somebody tried to take a shot. I forget who it was. And then he gets in Ricochet's face. Ricochet accepts to a match. Ricochet. It's nice to see Ricochet at least getting, a televised match. That's a good thing. But Ricochet, I know some people talked about him changing personality. I didn't see it this week. He is the same old, just Ricochet that is incredible in the ring, but that's where things stop. And it's not a knock on him. He just hasn't got a chance to really figure out who he is. But if he ever puts it all together, I think he could be a big star. Because he's certainly got the physical game. He's got a great look. All that stuff. So, But Drew McIntyre does defeat Ricochet, and we have MVP, by the way, on commentary. Why is MVP on commentary, you may ask? Because WWE feels the incessant need to have a three-man booth. And, well, MVP is great on the mic. They can fill MVP anywhere if you put a microphone in front of them. But I don't understand the need to have a three-man booth if Samoa Joe's out. Now, Samoa Joe maybe has COVID. Who knows? I really don't know. I'm hoping maybe he gets physically involved somehow at WrestleMania. And, I don't know, just a thought, maybe an early prediction. I don't know in what, but wishful thinking. But, I don't understand the need for a three-man booth. Two men are fine. It's once you hit three, it's a crowd, right? And Jim Ross always talked about how the fact he hated three-man booths. I'm not a big fan either. To me, it's a much more difficult show to watch because you're listening to three voices that have three different opinions, and somebody's trying to crack a joke while the other one's being serious, and then one person's just being color commentary, and then we have the robot Tom Phillips. I don't know, but anyway, MVP is ultra talented, and if they stick him there, after his career is over in the ring, I'd be all for it. MVP has got a bright, bright future on the mic somewhere doing something. So even if it's his own podcast. Okay, then we have Mustafa Ali. I guess it is actually Mustafa. That's weird to me. Mustafa. I heard them pronounce it Mustafa. I still want to say Mustafa Ali. It's just, I feel like I'm not pronouncing it correctly. So, Mr. Ali. How about we'll just call him that. Drew McIntyre defeats Ali after he was attacked trying to cash in on the bounty placed by Drew McIntyre, by Bobby Lashley on Drew McIntyre's head. And we got Mustafa, Mr. Ali, having a really good match with Drew. We all knew that, you put Ricochet and Ali in any match with anybody, it's going to be a really, really good match. Especially with Drew McIntyre, who's really talented as well. Right off the bat it's going to be good. So that is not the issue here. I also appreciate giving Ali some main event time. Same with Ricochet getting main event time. Even in a loss, it puts them back in the minds of fans. That's what you want. It's a start. Then, guys, I have to just say it again. What the f***? King Corbin comes out. Yeah, King Corbin from SmackDown comes out, tries to collect the bounty that is on Drew McIntyre's head, hits Deep Six on him, beats him up for a little while. Bobby Lashley comes in, puts a hurt lock on Drew several times, 3 times, makes Drew pass out, and that's pretty much it. And it was framed by, again, the commentators that, King Corbin from SmackDown comes in and tries to cash in and on the bounty that's on Drew McIntyre's head. Well, again, why is nobody up in arms that a SmackDown guy was allowed in the building? You could say, he came from the crowd. Well, there's no security. There's no security in a multi-billion-dollar company that are protecting their assets if this is supposed to be a brand split. And by the way, don't give me the quarterly invitational crap. That was never the narrative that he's there because of that. He was just there because of the bounty that gives him the right to do it. And furthermore, what is Baron Corbin going to do? Right? Like, if he gets a champ, say he did take out Drew, right? And he's awarded a championship match. Well, first of all, he's a SmackDown guy. How can he be on a Raw show as a SmackDown guy? If this, of course, WWE actually followed their own damn rules, how could this match even take place? It can't. The answer is it can't. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. But WWE doesn't care. The quarterly invitational wasn't even considered, wasn't even at least lied to me about, even though they did the quarterly invitational just a month or two ago. I think it was about a month or two ago. I remember I was going to write it down and I didn't, to see if they actually did, in fact, stick to quarterly, every 3 months, because that's what that means. And I don't think they did. But again, who the hell cares? It's WrestleMania season. We just do what we want. We're just going to throw all the rules out the window, and no one's going to care or listen or even have an inkling of a problem with this. Well, I do. Why even bother with the draft? If they're not even going to try to explain it to me why he's here legally. Yeah, if he was on the show, if he was on the Raw roster, he has a claim to say that he was just cashing in on the bounty. But he's not even on your brand. So that doesn't give him the right to forego all of the brand split rules and regs for a stipulation that is specific to the Raw brand. But no one cares. No one cares. Or at least that's how WWE thinks that we think. Who cares? No one's well, it's a SmackDown guy, but who cares? They're just gonna. I just want to see Drew get revenge. No. I want you to stick to your own damn rules and explain to me how somebody is there that's not supposed to be there. But they won't. They won't. And you know what's going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. This next Friday night on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, is going to be there. He's going to retaliate big time against Corbin, beat him senseless. It won't even be explained why he's there. It won't be even thought of as to how he's there, other than he's out for revenge. Again, that doesn't qualify you to break the brand split rules. It doesn't say in your contract, well, if it's for revenge or to cash in on a bounty, the quarterly invitational is exempt for your personal selfish purposes. That's not how things should work. So don't worry, Drew will be on SmackDown on Friday to exact his revenge on Corbin on Friday Night SmackDown. So don't worry. We'll get a impromptu Raw SmackDown show without actually having anything be explained to us. Oh, Lord. Okay, on to something else that may make me spike my blood pressure. And that, of course, is Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon. Now we have Elias and Jackson Riker. Isn't that the most generic name for a wrestler ever? Jackson Riker. It sounds like a biker, or it sounds like somebody that's just like so let's come up with a pro wrestling name that sounds cool. It's too pro wrestling, isn't it? Anybody else think? I didn't really notice it until I thought about it this week. It's unique. Like no one has that name. At the same time, it's just such a generic wrestling name. It sounds like you tried to come up with a pro wrestler's name rather than just have it feel organic. I don't know. Nothing against Jackson Riker, okay? The guy I have nothing against, just his name is so El Generico. Anyway, we have Shane out there running his mouth against Braun, showing his report card that made no sense because apparently he only studied 4 subjects and left out some important ones, right? Like, I don't think science was up there. I mean, he dug out and they manufactured an old report card. And again, maybe that was the whole purpose. And the teacher's comments suggesting he stay back. He got D's and D pluses and D minuses. Again, going on this whole notion that Braun is stupid. Whatever, super sophomoric. But this leads to, of course, Braun Strowman coming out and beating Jackson Riker in a match, which we all knew was going to happen, trying to chase Shane. Shane runs up the ramp, and boy, oh boy, with all the stipulations in the world that Braun Strowman could come up with, what does he come up with to equalize Shane's running and to mitigate it and put a complete stop to it? A cage match, a steel cage. No. I don't know if Braun has, even mildly viewed the product of WWE over the last 20 years, but I can say with fairly high confidence that a steel cage does in fact not have a significant positive effect on keeping people out or allowing people to leave the cage. It actually has the opposite effect, because if you want to win the match, all you have to do is walk out the door. They should eliminate that immediately. And again, I have dismantled the steel cage stipulations for years about how silly they are. I like steel cage matches, but the fact that one of the ways that you can win the match is by doing the very thing that the structure is intended to do, the opposite of what the structure is intended to do, which is keep you in the cage and to keep you locked there with your opponent. The very notion that if you do the opposite, you can win the match. If you just run out, right? Like you just run through the door, which, by the way, is super easy to do. I mean, I could do it I could win that match. I mean, anybody listening could win that match. If your opponent's on the other side of the ring and you tell the referee, open the door, open the door, open the door, you could get out of the ring and win the match before your opponent can get to you. I can guarantee it. It's the most ridiculous stipulation in the history of stipulations. I mean, even going over the top of the cage is silly with how slow they go and the delay at the top before they swing both legs over. Hey, it's all drama, I understand. But they should do away at bare minimum with escaping the door wins the match. That's just stupid. It is. I mean, I don't know. Okay, now I'm getting all Shane McMahon-like on you. But that's the best thing that Braun could come up with, which does actually kind of tell you who he is stupid. His character is stupid. You know, if you want to truly keep Shane there, you could have done Hell in a Cell. I mean, some would argue, it's not worth it. That's not worth but at least it would make sense. At least it would make sense that Shane can't go anywhere, and there's a much less likely chance of people interfering. We've seen it, but a much less rate. So, I don't know. I think that's a terrible call to make Braun look smart. If that's your goal, it just kind of feeds into Shane McMahon's narrative that Braun is stupid. Okay. Good Lord. Okay. What else happened on Monday Night Raw? I feel like I'm missing something. No Charlotte Flair, by the way. That's a glaring hole in the Monday Night Raw women's roster. Perhaps she is missing WrestleMania. And if Charlotte is missing WrestleMania, if that is the case, and it's not due to injury or due to COVID or some kind of health reason, that is very telling about the relationship between WWE and Charlotte. And I know that they would think, oh, fans just read into stuff. They can believe what they believe. No, I think that if your company that you've worked and helped grow and was in the main event of WrestleMania 35 for the first time ever for the women, and have built and centered the women's division around that individual for several years, is not on a show that you could have put them on, or could have put me on if I'm that person, if I'm Charlotte, something ain't right. There is trouble in paradise, as they say. And I would just kind of keep an eye out for that. But maybe they should have her show up next week and interject herself into that Raw Women's Championship picture. I could see that happening too. There's still 1 week left to build. So there is that for sure. Oh, God. There's one thing I forgot. I don't want to talk about it. I really don't. Miz and Morrison. The dirt sheet. I mean, I think that's worse than Miz TV. What's the difference, you may ask? Other than the intro and hearing Howard Finkel introduce them, the answer is nothing. The answer is nothing. There is no difference between Miz TV and Dirt Sheet. They were just probably getting tired of Miz TV and it's like, hey, let's have an alter ego of Miz TV. What's the difference? There's not going to be one. We're just going to call it something different, man. Okay. Well, there you go. So the Dirt Sheet and Miz and Morrison are out there, and this segment went way, way too long. They came out and they hyped up their premiere for Hey Hey Hop Hop. God, I feel stupid even saying this. So they did their music video and it was way too long. I think the production team were trying to show off their music video skills. I mean, I think that they just were like, guys, let's get away from wrestling. Let's show them something cooler and let's try to make a music video. That's exactly what they did here. I mean, I was fully expecting, those little bubbles. What was the name of that VH1 music video? Was it Pop-Up Video or something? Where they'd have like random facts about the music video throughout the video. It might have been Pop-Up Video. I could be wrong. I just saw it the other day on VH1 because it was really, really, really big back in the 90s. And early 2000s, and they'd give you like random cool facts about where they were on the set of the video and who's behind the camera you can't see, and maybe some relationship dirt that was going on. It was really fun. I mean, you find yourself reading those bubbles more than you did actually watching the video. So I don't know. I mean, short of like doing those little bubble pop-ups of facts, I mean, they just went all out music video here. At least they tried. And yeah, it was supposed to be stupid. And it was stupid on a level, again, that's just embarrassing, not entertaining. It's the worst of Miz and Morrison. They just took everything The Miz had gained, in my mind, for being a solo act and carrying the WWE Championship for a week, but at least being semi-serious, getting away from Morrison, and they threw that in the trash. It's gone. They've been back to the sophomore team of 14-year-old high school kids, sitting in the cafeteria and thinking that they are the most popular kids at school when everyone really hates them. So anyway, all these high school analogies. Can you tell I had like a troubled childhood or something? I really didn't, but anyway, this was again terrible in every sense of the word. It was as bad as you would imagine it would be. Them in bunny suits and all that kind of stuff, and they probably spent hours and hours editing that video. Too bad, it sucked, and I don't feel bad about saying that. So then we get Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, who is easily, I mean, he's becoming a heel real quick. I mean, Damian Priest, I am not a fan of his character if he's trying to protect Bad Bunny, which, to his credit, he allowed The Miz to get to Bad Bunny. And then something happened that was just inexcusable, but expected. Miz approaches Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny does like a full body haymaker swing to The Miz. Now, how The Miz didn't see this coming is beyond me. Bad Bunny did lay it in, and I'm sure he was told to lay it in and not make it look fake, because when they did the replay, he made contact with an open hand, open fist, not a closed fist. That's kind of a rule, obviously. And it was well done. I'm sure that, Miz actually felt that one. And he at least laid it in. I'll give them that. That's good. They didn't make it look super fake. But again, the golden rule of making celebrities look good is the overarching enemy here. And I know that they're bringing in Logan Paul this week. And I am always a big proponent of keeping celebrities the hell out of wrestling. I know that they brought in Gronkowski at WrestleMania 33. They brought in Mickey Rourke to punch out Chris Jericho. And now we have Bad Bunny punching Miz in the face. When are we going to get to celebrities getting their asses handed to them? When is that going to happen? Because that's what would actually happen. As much as The Miz is not a bodybuilder, he's not the fastest or the strongest, but you're telling me this guy's been in the business for 15 years, and he's getting punked out by a guy that's been at the Performance Center training for like 2 weeks. I don't buy it. And as much as I despise The Miz and Morrison's character, and I despise it, and I stand by those words, the hatred I have for bringing in celebrities, and particularly Bad Bunny, when you're telling me I should be cheering for him, actually exceeds the level of disposition, that's not the word, the level of hate, how about that, I'll just keep it simple, that I have for Bad Bunny and Damian Priest by proxy. It exceeds that by like fivefold. So I will be rooting for The Miz in this match. If we can even call it a match, it's probably going to be somewhat of a disaster. I don't see Bad Bunny in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, even however long he's been training, gaining any sort of semblance of a wrestler inside of a ring at WrestleMania. I mean, Miz is going to be carrying this match. It's going to be a lot of showmanship, a lot of, just kind of talking trash to each other, and one move, and then you wait 5 minutes and somebody does something else. So it, be strung out to like 15, 20 minutes, probably 15 minutes, when in fact there's been, probably 45 seconds of actual action, because they're going to fill it with a lot of just drama and facial expressions, and the announce team filling in the story. And there's really not a whole lot of substance here. As Jim Ross would say, this match is going to be all sizzle and no steak. That's exactly what this match, and I say match very loosely, is going to be. It's going to be Miz probably taking the pinfall by Bad Bunny. The only good thing about this, and as much as I want to see Bad Bunny get thrown off the WrestleMania sign, like I would actually want to see him get thrown off the WrestleMania sign that actually leads to the parking lot. Like, I want him to land on a car. That's what I want. I'm not saying death. I'm just saying maybe some injury, okay? Maybe little bumps and bruises here and there, and maybe a broken arm. I don't know. Of course, I'm joking. I really wouldn't wish actual bodily harm. I just can't stand the presentation of his character. I'm saying if there was a safe way to do it, I wouldn't mind if Bad Bunny got thrown from the top of the stadium into the parking lot on top of a car. If there's a safe way to do that. I'm kind of contradicting myself, but Lord. So the only good thing, as I said, is going to be after WrestleMania, we never have to see Bad Bunny again, I hope. I would assume that his deal ran from Rumble to Mania. After he held Booker T hostage, who stood there like a statue with his arms crossed. Ever since that lovely performance, now WrestleMania is a week and a half away. Hopefully, this ends quickly after WrestleMania, and we can all go back to our normal lives, and Damian Priest can go back to wherever he was going to be positioned at before he got stuck with Bad Bunny, because they're both Latino, I guess. I guess that's the connection. So, okay, guys. I think I've said my piece on this Monday Night Raw. It was not my favorite. Certainly, as you get close to WrestleMania, your standards also go up. And when your standards go up for Raws and SmackDowns and the product quality goes down, the differential of your expectation and reality get bigger. So your disappointment becomes bigger. And this is not a good Raw. Again, I highlighted some good things, but I would give this Raw like a D+. It looked a lot like Braun Strowman's report card. I mean, it was kind of ironic, right? That we had Shane McMahon put up that report card, because that's exactly the report card I would have given Monday Night Raw last night. So hopefully next week is a little bit better. Again, I have come to learn that go-home shows are no longer the fever pitch that they're supposed to be of everything comes to a boiling point. I've come to expect and realize that's probably not going to be the case, because they feel that WrestleMania sells itself anyway. But let's see if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. So, all right, everybody, that's going to do it for my Monday Night Raw wrap up. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can catch us tomorrow for a Wrestling Nostalgia. And I will continue with my WrestleMania themed nostalgias until WrestleMania is over. And then I'm going to be doing a mailbag. So if you want your questions answered via email us at realwwepodcast@gmail.com. Excuse me, you can tweet us at wrestling_audio. You can hit us up on Instagram at WWE_podcast, or you can call us at 518-952-0247 and leave us a voicemail. If you get it to us by, say, 9-10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night, I'll get it on the show to the best of my ability, and I'll answer your questions live as we creep closer and closer. WrestleMania is, oh good Lord, 12 days away? I think 12 is the right number. So also hit us up on Apple. If you want to give us a 5-star rating and review, it helps out the show. If you want to buy something on Amazon, head to wwepodcast.com first. Click on that banner that's in the middle of our website, and it'll redirect you to Amazon and kicks back a little bit of whatever you buy to the show. And you can head on over to Patreon if you don't like these ads, commercials, whatever, and head on over there and become a patron for $1 a month. You get all of our podcasts completely ad-free. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Please stick with us throughout WrestleMania and beyond. We've got some great content coming, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So, guys, until then, take care. I'll talk to you next time.